What's good, everybody? Today I'm going to be talking about something that I've been wanting to share for quite a while, and it's how I got a software developer internship at 16. Let's get right into it. So the basic outline of this video is going to be, first I'm going to be talking about my qualifications, my prior experience in software development, web development, and coding, and then the second part of this video is probably going to be like what the interview process was like, and then a part two, another video coming out this week, will talk about what it was like to actually be a software developer. So let's get into the first part, which is what are my qualifications and prior experience. So to make this process a lot more structured, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through my resume part by part and explain everything so you guys understand a little bit more about who I am, because I know I've been making videos for quite a while, but it's important for me, and I think it's important to you to get a better understanding of like who I am and learn a little bit more about my resume. So the first part of my resume is education. So here I just list relevant courses, the most important courses that appeal to the interviewer. So I talk about being on track for AP Calc, being on track for AP Physics, the classes that I took before, whether they're honors or AP. I talk about the chemistry class that I took, and I also talk about a program that I'm taking currently, which is a 3-year program called Science Research, which I'll get into a little bit more, but a brief explanation of this class is like a class where you have the opportunity to pursue research in any field you want to. And so this is just to list what classes you're studying in high school. It gives the interviewer a little bit of a better idea of who you are as a student. Now here I talk about the projects that I've done in my research program, Science Research. Now they're based on robotics and computer science, so the word research is relevant here because I was doing research on my own. But in some other resumes, people choose to use the word projects or simply projects or programs or repositories or whatever. So the wording basically varies on how you want to present yourself. So I really want my resume to be more research oriented because that's what I'm passionate about. So I called it independent research projects, but the nomenclature doesn't really matter. So the first project, the one on the bottom, is a neural network that predicts risks of NBA injury. So that project was basically taking creating a data set of players' height, weight, BMI, a bunch of other stats, and the types of injuries they were getting, and constructing a neural network on my own with my own weights and biases, without any tutorials, trying to predict the risk of certain NBA injury from that data set. That project really introduced me to using neural networks analytically, and was a really good introduction project. And you're gonna see here that listing that project is important because it shows my progression over time as my projects get more complex and more complex. The middle project is my first actual research project, which is called Design and Construction of a Cost-Effective Full Arm Prosthesis with Computer Vision. I did that September 18th to March 19th, and that project, I built a prosthetic arm that uses electromyography, which is a method of capturing muscle input, and machine learning through computer vision to actually fit a prosthetic arm to any user. And so that was a 3D printed prosthetic arm, and I got to take that to competitions, and I list all my awards. So I went to NJRSF, which is like my local science competition, and then I was able to go to Intel ISEF. Maybe I'll take another video just to talk about that, but I list the key accomplishments and awards, and that's really important. Highlight the awards, but also highlight the process. And the final one, the most recent project I did, the one listed at the top, is called an autonomous drone for water conservation and irrigation optimization. I think I've mentioned this in previous videos, but I basically built a drone with original software that basically optimizes the distribution of water in a field based on the placement of irrigation systems. And then I list my awards at NJRSF. So that is basically my independent research projects. This proves to the interviewer that I'm passionate about doing coding, programming, machine learning, robotics outside of school, which is really important. And that's also really important in the college application process, to prove that you're not only passionate within a school setting, but you can also motivate yourself outside of school and do stuff on your own. That's really important. Okay, so the next category is research experience within a lab. So this highlights the programs that I was doing at the Weizmann Institute, which is a lab in Israel where I got the opportunity to do research there in mathematics. So one of my projects was basically analyzing 3D crystals within a space and identifying their isometries, which was a really cool math project that I did. And then 3 years prior to that, I was able to kind of do a biology enrichment program at the Weizmann Institute, and both were inside of labs. And so my resume is mainly focused on research here. So the emphasis on independent versus in lab is really important. So this next category, I would argue, is probably the most important category out of everything. It's talking about your research skills, your ability, straight up. If the interviewer wants to know what you can actually do, they look in this section. So here I list a couple of things. I talk about machine learning and data analysis with TensorFlow and Keras, which I did with the NBA project, I also did in the prosthetic project and the drone project. I also talked about what languages I'm fluent in and what languages I'm proficient in. There's a distinct difference. You may think it's trivial wording, but it's really important. I'm fluent in Python, C++, and Robot C, and I'm proficient in Java and C#. For me, the difference between fluent and proficient is fluent, everything comes to you like this, like easy, snap, like everything's quick. Proficient, it takes you a little bit more time to process. Maybe you're not really used to the syntax. So it's really important to distinguish what programs you can, go to war with and what programming languages you need a little bit more time to get used to when you're starting to program with them. Then I talked about my skills with modeling, since I did a lot of 3D printing projects. Also with the drone project, I 3D printed the frame. Again, I will talk about that project specifically in a different video. So I talked about using Fusion 360, SolidWorks, and Inventor. And then also I talked about, obviously robotics with Arduino and Raspberry Pi, which I've touched on in previous project videos. So this is such an important category, and you need to make sure that you list everything that you're good at. If you have used a program once or twice, don't mention it, because interviewers are looking for specific things. And if you don't meet the criteria, that's fine. You don't have to always meet the criteria for a specific job. But once you do meet the criteria and you say you can do something that you can't do, it becomes a real issue when you're trying to apply that skill within your job. And finally, extracurricular activities. So here, this is your place to talk about your passion. Are you passionate about entrepreneurship? Which in my case I am. I did a couple of entrepreneurship hackathons, which I list first. And then you talk about clubs that you're involved in with school. So I talked about robotics club. I love debate. I'm a varsity debater. I'm in Frisbee club. I'm a counselor at Israeli Scouts. I was a programming instructor. All these things which are very important. So that's the scope of my resume, and those are all the qualifications. Now let's talk about the interview process and how I got the opportunity to interview for the job. Alright, so now we're going to be talking about how I got myself to actually get into the interview process, get in the mix of the people they were looking for. So number one, the most important thing, and something that I urge you to do, is put your resume, your qualifications, break everything that you've done down until now on a LinkedIn profile. It's so important. When I was getting interviewed, I had a LinkedIn profile set up, everything was clean, everything was ready, and I'll put it on the screen so you can see what my LinkedIn profile looks like. It kind of breaks down my resume a little bit more in depth, and kind of shows them that I'm ready to go to a job. I'm proactive. I have a LinkedIn profile at 16. I'm ready to go. I want this job, right? So that's really important. Now, something to note, internships. They will always look for a candidate that is pursuing a college degree. Don't get discouraged. Don't. Because I'm telling you right now, if you ask and you prove that you're motivated, they will give you the internship. If you're better than the other candidates, you've done your work, you've done your homework, you're working hard in your field, they will give you the opportunity and you will prove yourself. So don't be, self-conscious when you're applying for these jobs and they say only pursuing a degree, ask them, message the recruiter on LinkedIn. See what happens. It's always important to take a risk because at least once that risk will pay off. So now, I was applying to jobs at LinkedIn, writing cover letters and all of that. I think you could find a bunch of videos on how to write cover letters on YouTube, or ask your friends, or ask a mentor or a guidance counselor. That's kind of something that I'm not so specialized in. What I can say is the most important thing that got me the opportunity to get this job was relationships. So I participated in an entrepreneurship program, and one of my mentors in the entrepreneurship program had talked about an internship that he was offering at his job. And so I took the opportunity to message him. I had his number, so I said, okay, I'd like to take you up on your offer. What do I have to do? So he said, okay, we're going to do an interview and we'll see what happens. And if you're the right candidate, you'll get the job. So the most important thing that I need to stress here is that if you ask around, you ask your parents, you ask your friends, you ask potential mentors, teachers at school for opportunities, those opportunities will present themselves. All you need to do is be ready for them. Like I said before, list all your accomplishments, everything you've done, your skills on a resume, strong format, strong wording, to the point, brief. Resumes should be 1 page, not more than 1 page. At the high school level, there shouldn't be more than 1 page of information you need to share. You don't need to pour your whole life story. You don't need to put fancy images. It's got to be to the point and good. Number 2 is a LinkedIn profile that breaks everything down into more detail. And the LinkedIn profile gives you the opportunity that recruiters will see your profile, and it makes you seem proactive and involved and ready for a job. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'm going to be coming out with a part 2 of what the interview process was like. But if you did enjoy this video and you want to see part 2, make sure to like down below and subscribe. It helps with the growth of the channel so much. But for now, thank you guys for watching. Peace.